Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Golden Touch Motivational. So today we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is burnout, which is actually a key in being an entrepreneur, a performer, or even having creative abilities. Now, how do you recognize burnout? And how do you identify it? And how do you overcome it? These are some of the topics we're going to talk about and identify. Now, the first thing is, how do you identify burnout? And the main point, the best way to say it or to identify it is, you're going to start losing creativity and interest, or even losing your sense of purpose. And it's okay. Burnout doesn't mean failure. It just means you're pushing yourself too much, and sometimes you need to rest. And once you identify that you're losing interest in your sense of purpose, and you're also losing your creativity and your creative touch, that's a sign right there. Now, how do you overcome it? It's very simple. Because, well, let's talk about why burnouts do happen. A lot of time it happens because we push ourselves to the limit, number one. And part of it is guilt, because remember what I was telling you about childhood trauma? When growing up, you think, oh, if you're not doing something, you're lazy. If you're resting, you're lazy. That's not the point here, because you cannot go 24/7. You need rest. And once you start losing your creative touch, it means something's wrong. And that's when you need to pause and reset. And like I said, nothing's wrong with that. It's like athlete. Sometimes you gotta step back in order to jump higher. Nothing's wrong with that. Same thing with that. So usually, why burnout, or why people burn out in general? Number one, there are a few reasons why. One of the reasons is actually guilt. What do I mean by that? Guilt meaning, we think if we're taking a break from something, or if we're taking a rest, all of a sudden we're going to be labeled as lazy. Again, that's a childhood trauma voice in your head. And a lot of time also is pushing yourself too much, meaning it's like, okay, I have to get this done right away. This has to be completed. Then you're putting too much pressure on yourself. And that can create or lead to burnout. Now, it happens to me too. I have a couple of cases where I feel like, man, I feel really drained emotionally, where rest doesn't help. You can sleep all day, still doesn't help. That's when you can feel that it's a burnout thing. So what do I usually do? I kind of reset myself. Like, how do you overcome burnout? It's very simple, actually. The best way to overcome burnout is to step away from whatever you're doing. That's number one. Shut it down, because you cannot force creativity. You cannot force, how can I say it, your ability to overcome things or to push yourself to the limit. You're just going to get to a point where you just break down, and it's harder to recover from that. So the first thing you do is basically just reset, and it's okay. Step away from everything you're doing and go back to the why. What do I mean by that? Go back to your basic activity. A lot of things that help with burnout is step away from everything, start journaling. Talk about things that has nothing to do with what you're working on or what you're focusing on. Sometimes, like myself, I just take a walk, or I just go play basketball or go to the gym. Some physical activity 9 out of 10 times helps you recover from a burnout. Why? Because now you're pushing your heart rate a little bit on a high side, which allows you to create endorphin, which is like a good chemical. Once you work out all that stuff, it just rejuvenates you a little bit. So physical exercise, or you can go for a walk, or you can do journaling, or go out for like dinner and a movie or something, or catch up with some friends. Just do something that just takes you away from everything. In other words, it's like, find something you really you enjoy doing without there is no expectation whatsoever. Even if it means, hey, go out to the movies, catch a movie, or watch a movie or comedy, something, because it helps your mind reset. Because remember, the brain can focus on one thing at a time. And when you overwhelm, your mind will just think about the overwhelmness and then just think of something different. Because that helps. And like I said, it helps me too. So that's one of the ways you recover from it. Now, the other thing is sometimes our thoughts can push us to burn out. What do I mean by that? Because remember, not because you have a thought doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Because sometimes we process a lot of the thoughts we had in the past, meaning we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts daily. And guess what? 90% of those thoughts are from the day before. So we keep recycling all these thoughts from the past, and guess what? We use that to force the future. And that creates a lot of pressure and can create a burnout. It can even create depression, because sometimes you just don't feel like doing anything. That's a sign of depression. That means you're burning out. And like I said, stepping away from everything, to kind of summarize it, do activities that you enjoy doing. And like I said, go for a walk and all that. Now, that will help you reset and helps you rejuvenate, because also go back to the why. Find your sense of purpose as well. Meaning, because if you don't define the why in anything you're doing, burnout will come very quick. Because when adversity hits, you got to go back to the why. Because remember what I was telling you guys, without adversity, there's no growth. Problems are not meant to stop us. They're meant to make us better. But sometimes it can push us in a corner where we think there's no way out. That can create another burnout as well. And that's also a sense of purpose. Go back to what defines you. What's the reason why you're doing what you're doing? What joy do you find behind that? Because remember, you have to think of a compelling future. It has to be greater than yourself. And that allows you to rejuvenate you, allow you to, so you can basically just reset and rejuvenate. And like I said, once you do all those activities, it really helps you coming back to what really matters. And guys, just so you know, burning out doesn't mean failure. It just means you're pushing yourself too much, and reset. Because until you don't feel burnout, that means you're not doing something right. And it's a good sign. That means you're moving towards your goals. And guys, that's a good thing. And once you reset, you just get stronger. And then now you know the sign to avoid it. With the burnout, once you reset, you come back all fresh and refreshed. And then it allows you also to reset your purpose. And remember, burnout doesn't mean failure, guys. It just means you push yourself to the limit. It's not failure. Until you hit burnout, that means you're doing something right. That means you're on the way of working on something. And then go to the website, which is goldentouchmotivational.com, and there's a lot of information about it. And then I also want to hear about your experiences about burnout and see what I can do to help you guys out. Until then, I'll talk to you guys and have a good one.